In terms of North Korea, is what we're seeing now, present day in North Korea, some sort of proof that maybe the negotiations and the deals that we've tried to work out over the years just don't work? Former State Department official Joel Wit is with us, and he worked on a North Korea deal back in the 90s. He's here in the studio. It's good to see you, sir.
Good to be here.
What do you say to that, you know, and now that you have maybe 20 years of hindsight to look back on it, was it all worth it to work out some of these nuclear deals with the North Koreans?
Well, you know, when people talk about diplomacy, they talk about 20 years of failure. And in fact, the record is much more mixed. So, for example, when I was in the State Department in the 1990s, we reached a deal that stopped North Korea from building about 75 to 100 nuclear weapons. So when that deal collapsed, they had enough material to build less than 5. So I mention that as an example that diplomacy can work, but there are times when it doesn't work. There are limits, though,
right? Because, to your point, it did collapse.
Yes, it did collapse, and part of that was because the North Koreans were doing things they shouldn't have been done. But I would argue the deal could have continued if we held their feet to the fire and got them to correct their behavior.
How did that work back then? Why didn't we? We were talking with Rob O'Neill about presidents in the past, whether it's Clinton, Bush, Obama, leading up to Trump now. Haven't really done that, have they? And when they've had the chance to?
Well, that's exactly true. You know, the Bush administration essentially walked away from the deal, having caught the North Koreans cheating, basically thought it would punish them by walking away from the deal. And the North Koreans just restarted their program. And then the Bush administration started new negotiations to try to reconstitute the deal they walked away from.
So and then what about the 8 years of the Obama administration? The criticisms have to be fair there, too, right?
Yes. You know, I've been one of the loudest critics of the Obama administration. I don't think they pursued the diplomatic option seriously enough. But in all fairness to them, what was happening also then was a leadership transition in North Korea, which probably made the North Koreans less willing to engage us.
Okay, so all of that is, you know, as they say in the past, so we are here and it is what it is. What, from your expertise, and also from the lessons maybe that you've learned from some of what we've just talked about over the last few minutes, what do you think is the best option now?
Well, you know, I think it's not just one tool in our toolbox. It's a bunch of tools. So, for example, there's the tool of sanctions to put pressure on them.
Right.
There's the tool of protecting ourselves and our allies. And there's also the tool of diplomacy, which I don't think we've seriously explored enough, to establish a dialogue.
Through China? Or?
No, directly between us and the North Koreans. And based on my own discussions with the North Koreans, I think they're ready to do that under certain conditions. What are those conditions? Is it something we can live with? The conditions are that initially there are no preconditions. We can't say to them...
Should we do that?
I think we should do it, given the dangerous situation we're in. And there's no downside to doing that, because we can walk away if it doesn't work.
And you said protecting our allies. Is that militarily? Is that an option that's really on the table? I'm sure you war-gamed or were part of something that some of those projects in the past.
Well, we protect our allies through our alliances. And, of course, we have troops stationed in Northeast Asia. We have a lot of weapons there, and we can also upgrade those as necessary, depending on how the threat develops.
Joel Wit, thank you for your perspective. We appreciate it. Very serious times, but thank you for coming in.
Thanks a lot.